Welcome to the OFX podcast. I'm Dave Claxton, and along with me, not as always, is our no-show Nancy, Bethany McChesney. Let me down this weekend. She left me to straggle on my own, no one to relay with, but I
Yeah,
did I did get my last minute partner. Thank you, Liz. She came through and she jumped in. Literally, we decided we were both volunteering, and right at the end, I'm like, "Hey, you want to do this?" And so we went the last round and we went and we won. We were victorious.
nice, good.
Yes, yes, yes. So it was good. And you know what? I think she was really happy. She's one of the farm girl clients, and I think she was very excited to get a win. And
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. So it was a lot of fun. But we did miss you. We missed you very much. And we didn't get to set a time, but we will.
Yeah, I'm definitely having FOMO. It's always hard to watch races happening that you kind of planned on being at, but it was for the
What's your
best.
what's your pathetic excuse?
Well, double unders at the last RX1 really flared up my Achilles. So anyone who's ever kind of dealt with the Achilles issue, it can be such an ongoing thing. And double unders has to be probably the single worst movement for me with my Achilles. So yeah, they had 100 double unders at the end of the race, and then the week leading up to it, practicing it, and I kind of knew it was coming. That after that race, I'd probably have to take a little bit of time off of too much ankle flexion. So sure enough, my Achilles was not happy with me. So
Did you? And we'll go back to deck in a minute. Did you see that course in Quebec for RX1? Sorry, did you
the
look at those
course,
videos? Yeah,
yeah,
and for the expert division.
yeah, three sets of 50 double
Three
unders.
sets of 50 double unders. Yeah. I know. It's just like, I don't want any part of that.
I
No.
know.
And actually, something else that came up, and I had to get clarification on it because I was confused. So maybe some of the other people are confused, but they had for the expert men a clean squat cleans with 135. And when you look at the stuff, it says, when you look in that, it says like a one rep max of one, or sorry, 10 rep max of 110 or 115 is what you should be able to do. But the thought process is no, you can do 135. You just have to do less sets,
Hmm.
right? More sets, less reps. So I'm like, okay, but I didn't understand that at first. So if you happen to be confused by that, that's what's going on there. But I'm really, and then I looked at the intermediate course, and the only thing that I didn't like was there was no pull-ups, there was ring rows, and the ring rows just bother me a little bit. I'd rather do pull-ups, but I'm really leaning towards just heading back down to the intermediate as much as I liked doing the the expert division. It's unless I want to make it my main race,
Hmm.
it's a lot of extra skills to practice.
Yeah, it is a pretty big jump, I find, from the intermediate to the expert as far as the skills are concerned. Like
Yeah.
before each race, I'm kind of uh, practicing something that I don't normally do, which is fine. But yeah, it's a big jump in skill for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when the time comes. We'll see what next race holds and then next year or whatever. Who knows? Um, so back to Deca. Yeah, we had Deca Farmer this weekend. It was pretty good. It was great. We had a lot of good people out. I did get knocked off the podium very sadly, and I did not PR. And my second best time. But so this is what freaked me out. From my just let's talk about me for a little while. So I pretty much had like a personal best on almost every station. And if it wasn't a personal best, it was in with like a second.
Mhm.
And then I had one station that just went to complete shit, which was the tank. And then I went in and had a near personal best on the burpees. And it was like when I say went to shit, I was like 33 seconds slower than the last time I did a tank. Oh, there you go. You back? Okay. Yeah. So I was 33 seconds slower than the last time I did a tank.
And do you know why?
I assume I was tired, but I'm always tired when I get to the tank, so I don't really know what happened.
Did you
And
change your strategy?
not really. And then I looked like I seriously I went back and watched the video. I'm like, man, and John was my judge. He did an excellent job. So I'm like, did he miscount? But no, he was bang on. Of course, he was fine. just looking for some reason, anything else to blame. But yeah, it was weird. I mean, again, clearly I tried to take away the positive from it. Positive from it was, um, you know, normally run out of gas and the last three stations suck. But
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
time only really one of the last three stations really sucked. The other two were better than usual. So I really should have like I was on my way. I was on pace for like a 1340, 1345, and maybe 1350. But anyway, that and then that tank was, yeah, like I said, 33 seconds longer than normal. And I did see my transitions in the second half were not great either. So yeah, probably about a 1350, 1352, which I would have been very happy with.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so kind of shit the bed a little bit just on that, but is what it is. Um, then like I said, I did have a good relay, so that was fun. Um, we had two guys go sub 13
Yeah. So I saw Pat Millington did a, what was it, 12:20?
at 12:20, I believe. Yeah. And then
Hmm.
Ashley Squire, he lives like 15 minutes down the road from me. He did like a 12:52. And
Wow, good for him.
obviously both were PRs for them. And now for at least for age group for sure, and possibly with Pat, he might get into that like top 20 for elite.
Wow, good for him.
And they're both planning to go to Texas. They're
Awesome.
ready to go. And I nearly got a doubles out of Ashley. We were nearly because we were hoping to put in like a maybe a sub 10 or something like that, or right around a 10.
Hmm.
But he was hurting afterwards, and yeah, couldn't get it. So we will hopefully do one next time. But
Hmm.
that'd be good. So yeah, and then you had some of your girls come up. How'd they feel?
Yeah, so Kendra went and did the doubles with her friend. So she's been battling some issues also. So it was she hasn't really been able to train full on, which is why she did the doubles with her friend. So yeah, it was just kind of it was more to get her friend exposed to Deca racing, and that I mean they had a really good time. So she's taking a little bit of downtime right now to heal some of her issues. Well, she's gone climbing in Kentucky,
That's downtime,
which
right?
is yeah, which isn't a too bad way to take some downtime, but yeah, so Kendra, I mean, when she gets all these things sorted out, she's definitely going to be a force. So,
And they won too. They had the best women's time.
oh, did they?
Yeah,
Okay.
they did. They did. Her friend, you say it was too exposed to it. She did really well. She looked like a bit of a veteran. She was fit and she moved well. And like I saw some other people there who were pretty fit, but there's tips and tricks and things to help move properly. Then they weren't doing those. But Kendra's
Hmm.
partner, she was moving really well and looked like she had researched what was going on.
Hmm.
you know,
Awesome.
you can usually see it like on the box overs a lot of times. You can see, okay, this person's at least looked into it and seen,
Hmm.
same with the over the shoulder. She looked very solid. So that was cool. Um, so what is up and your injury? What's going on here? Are you gonna be back or you think it's
Oh yeah, it's just I think right now, like if anyone knows my injury history, I struggled with Achilles pain for almost 2 years, and then it ended up getting really bad, and I ended up in a boot for 6 weeks, which ultimately calmed it down. But it's such a process with the Achilles, and some people say once you have it, it's always going to be something you deal with. And I don't necessarily buy into the always mentality of anything. But it has been fine and extremely manageable over the last year. And I've finally been able to ramp up my training. But again, just adding in a stimulus with the double unders that is unique and it's extremely aggressive on the ankle flexion just flared it right back up. Like, so I have to be careful with things like speed work on hard surfaces. I generally try to avoid the track. Most of my speed work is on like gravel paths and stuff. Um, So yeah, just that one thing over a week. And like it was one of those things where I knew what was coming and like, I was kind of taking the risk anyways, was kind of re-aggravating it a bit. So mentally I had already prepared that, the week and a half after doing that race that I was probably gonna have to stay off of my feet. So and yeah, I did a test run on the Tuesday after RX1 and and my Achilles just hurt the whole time. So I'm just being really cautious because once you get into like a serious flare up with the Achilles, it just takes a really long time to calm down. Tendon injuries in general are they're more difficult to manage just because tendons don't have their own blood supply. So they don't heal as fast necessarily as other types of injuries. So I'm just being extra cautious. So if something can, especially race wise, can be taken off the schedule to help things calm down, then this is the time to do it. So it's just kind of a word to anyone dealing with injuries. I always say better to take 3 to 7 days before you're forced to take 6 to 8 weeks in a boot. So that's where I'm at.
Um, a couple more things I wanted to talk about with DECA too. One, if you are if you've done DECA or you haven't done DECA or whatever, and if you're in like a couples DECA is a riot. Like I
Mhm.
saw we that's one thing we did see this weekend was a few couples do the DECA together and they all had a good time. I really enjoyed that, really had fun. Um I thought it was really cool. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was so your DECA that is coming your Fit Farm DECA that's coming up
Yeah.
when's that one?
Yeah, so July 22nd, we're going to do a Deca Mile. And this one, we've joined up with a really cool new gym that's opened up in London, Ontario called Boss Health and Fitness. And they have a super really nice facility in London. There's like gorgeous shower facilities and we've designed the day where you could do there's kind of a morning session and an afternoon session with junior races in the middle of the day. So if you want to come and do your individual race and then team up and do the team races right after, then you can get it all done in the morning or vice versa, do it in the afternoon. So we kind of have 2 hours of individual, an hour of teams, and then an hour of juniors in the middle to kind of break things up. And then the afternoon session looks the same, 2 hours of individual and then an hour of teams. So it's designed in that way. So if you want to do and if the team race is kind of your focus, then you could do the morning session teams and then the afternoon session individual. But either way, it's kind of set up in a way that you could come and you could do both your individual and your teams on the same day. And I am really trying to get some junior racers out. So that middle time slot in that like the lunch hour is going to be for junior racers. So that 10 to 13 year olds. So if you haven't really looked into the junior races, they do they do the same race except the machines are half, and then the weights for everything. Most of it is essentially half of the weight of the women's weight.
So what we need to do is just go hang out outside of public schools and just round up the children, put them in a van, maybe lower them in with some candy, take them over. I think it's a good plan. Honestly, I think more people like, I'm not sure. I think Pure Impact might have been doing this or whatever. You need to start going into the schools and getting kids into this stuff earlier. And I've always said the same thing with OCR too. The problem with OCRs is just such a difficult setup and training
Yeah. Hmm.
platform. Um, but yeah, getting like school teams and I mean RX1 does this really well where they get different schools sending sets of teams to compete against each other at events. That's just awesome. Like it's way more exciting than track.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think one of the great things about the junior stuff is it is really designed for their level, like the 10 to 13. One of the what I would say one of the flaws in the DECA system still is like that 14, 15-year-old age group, you're doing the adult weights. And that is very hard for like a 14-year-old boy or girl. You're doing like a 40 pound or a 60 pound farmer's carry. And we've seen kids do this and it is possible, but like it's not just something that your kid could just jump into and be able to handle those kind of weights. So the junior is to get kids into it and get the feel for the racing style. And but then I just feel like that 14-year-old, 15-year-old kid, it's such a struggle. And it's frustrating in a way too, because that's the age where kids generally drop out of sport.
Mm.
And that's where, well, and actually 80% of females, and when they're 13 and 14, drop out of sport. So to make that big jump from a 13-year-old junior DECA to the 14-year-old adult weight, I think it's a bit of a shame that they're trying to get 14-year-olds to do the adult weights. But I mean, DECA has their methods to things, and it's something that has been discussed. But I think to try to get kids still doing that junior race while they're still in that 10 to 13-year-old age group is really crucial to then get them thinking and preparing for what happens when, they hit 14 and then they have to bump up in the weight divisions.
Yeah, I mean that is an odd time, right? Because some kids, like I was one of those early bloomer kids
Mhm.
who, if at 15 years old or 14 years old, you gave me the men's weights for deck, I'd be like, yeah, no problem. I'm fine. I'm farmer strong. Like grew up on the horse farm. I'm gonna toss those around probably better than I can now. But I remember other guys that were, much, much smaller and didn't, they matured later. And yeah, that would be really like for them to do 60 pound over the shoulders would be tough on a lot of them. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's a tough one, right? Yeah. It's so hard to nail it properly to make it challenging and yet accessible. So I don't know. It's tough, but I get what you're saying. That is always that tough gap. And I
Yeah.
remember that from hockey too, and martial arts, like that 13, that age is just when they start to drop like flies.
Yeah. Such a huge drop off. Yeah.
It's also the age when boys and girls kind of discover each other, and I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, there's more distractions.
It's,
But they find too, if you can keep kids in sport through that age range, then generally speaking, they're so it's like it's so crucial to keep kids in sport in that like 14, 15, 16-year-old time frame. So lots of studies have been done on it. So I don't know, it's just to me it's such a focus, but I just like I wish there was something a little bit more in the middle for that age group. So anyways, we're pushing the junior races at this one. So if you have a 10 to 13-year-old who would like to give DECA a try, it is half the distance for the machines, which is nice, and then half the weight of the women's.
I'm gonna find one. I there's got to be one around. Hey, actually, I might have some nieces or nephews or cousins or something I can drag.
Yeah.
But it's still the mile for them though, right?
Yep. Still the mile.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool. And this one, like you said, this one's not in the mall. So is it a good setup for the mile? Is it going to be a fast course?
Yeah. So again, this facility was like perfectly designed again for a mile. So they have their big long turf in the middle that opens up to the big garage door, which goes out into an empty parking lot. So it's the perfect design again for a mile. So we're gonna have two lanes going side by side, and then out the garage door, down the parking lot, and back. So
Nice, nice. That's awesome. Um,
mm,
I look forward to it. That's going to be great. It's going to be a great time. And
mm.
are we gonna improve our score?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we got to jump up more. We're sitting fourth, which is good,
Hmm.
but definitely more to be given. More to give. Think we can. I
Yep.
think we can crack the top three here.
Mm.
And I think especially if we have a faster course this time, be in that top three.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Making Alex Walker shaking her boots there.
With her son?
No, 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 no. She had another partner.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
her son. We had them. No, she
Okay,
had
great.
another partner. They put in a really good time. They were really fast. So,
Oh, okay.
so it's yeah, yeah. It's gonna be but it's, yeah, it's gonna be good. Another thing, actually, I just saw this by the way. Athletic Brew Light is back, and I'm really happy. Wasn't available in Canada for a long time, and I just ordered a 2-4. I'm like, yay, finally back. You
Well,
know,
we will have athletic brewing at our next event as well.
I didn't even
Mm.
know that was a lead in. That was a perfect lead in.
Yeah,
Make sure you
there
get
you
the light.
go. Yeah. So
Get the
everyone who
light.
finishes gets their one free sample beer. So
Get the light because it's best. It's in my opinion the best non-alcoholic beer.
yeah, it's very good.
by the way, somebody, um, oh my God, um, one of the OCR guys, he said he posted that he had a non-alcoholic beer tasting night. Motivated him for one of them or inspired him to have one. So that's good to see.
Well,
Um,
we should mention also there is a new women's world record in the Deka Strong.
I actually hadn't written that. Go for it, Fly. I had written that down, so go
All
for
right.
it.
So Carly Wopat, who is the sister of Andrew, who owns Battle Bunker, just was the first woman to break 12 minutes in the Deka Strong. So 11:55 for a woman.
And if you haven't seen Carly, like she's okay, she reminds me, and it's going to sound like a strange comparison. She reminds me of Carolyn Prevost in a way because she is super versatile, right? So yeah, so Carly Gunnar, she won the Go Ruck games,
Mhm.
right? And she's well versed in jujitsu, and that's part of what helped her win the Go Ruck games, not on top of being an absolute beast. Um, she is a professional volleyball player. And I mean, and then obviously, yeah, with the Deka Strong, and she reminds me of Carolyn in the way that Carolyn was like, you know, CrossFit Games, Taekwondo, professional hockey, right? So she's one of
Yeah.
those people who just has that gift, that athleticism. And if you have seen Carly, she is just unbelievable specimen.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know how tall she is, but she did make Matt Kempson look short on the
She's
podium.
quite tall. Well, she's a pro volleyball player. They don't get a lot of short volleyball players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So she is an imposing figure for sure. I
Mhm.
know that when they were doing the wrestling for the Battle Bunker, a lot of the girls were like, no,
Just
no
tap
thank
out.
no thank you. Like I think even Vivian Tafuto, who's Vivian's a, she's a tall girl as well. And she was, yeah, I don't want any part of that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I Tara had commented to me as well, Tara Jackson, and she said, wow, that is wicked fast. She thought
So
that
she beat Tara. So for reference, the record was 12:40 by
yeah.
Tara.
Mhm.
So she took such a big chunk of time off of that. And she said in her Instagram post, her goal was to go under 12:30. And I
Yeah.
mean, she smashed that by 35 seconds. So,
Well, and Tara told me she said she thought her record would go down this year. She thought for sure she thought someone was
oh,
going to go sub 12:30. But she's
mhm,
like, I never saw 11:55 sub 12 coming for a women this year. She thought that was still a couple years off. But yeah,
mhm.
Carly just changed the game.
I would love to know her splits on that.
Oh yeah. Why does anybody have a video of that? That's something I'm gonna go. I'm gonna
Yeah.
see. Maybe Carly has a video. We're gonna try to get a hold of her and see if she has a video because I bet you she's probably got like a like a 40-35 second bike or some
Yeah.
crazy like that,
Yeah.
because just with her power output, I'm sure it's the machines and her length on the ski erg and the rower. I bet you those machines just completely set her apart.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, but great. And she seems like a really cool person. I've yet to have a conversation with her, but I'm definitely putting that on my to-do list.
Mhm.
And yeah, so 11:55. Like that. You know what I want to see her do the men's weights.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you she's still sub 13.
Oh, totally. Or
Yeah, yeah,
faster. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like I don't think she'll crack under 12, but I
No, no.
could see her do like a 12:30 or a 12:45 or 12:50 or something like that. So yeah, definitely sub 13 with the men's.
Mhm.
It's unbelievable. So really cool. So yeah, she's on the hit list. We're gonna find her. We're gonna get her,
Yeah.
crack her down. Um, High Rocks was over in Italy. And the reason I really wanted to mention it was because two of my favorites hit the female podium there. Viola getting the win, and Camilla Massa getting second place. And that's a big thing for Camilla because she is American, but she's Italian. Going over to Italy and getting a podium over there is really cool. And she's a person who has I, I kind of think of her like Vivian. She's a little behind Vivian, but she's the kind of person that has steadily got better and better and better and really put in the work and put in the effort and is constantly improving and genuinely loves the sport.
Mhm.
And so it's good to see her doing. And she did the one thing from somebody who's done commentating that I wish more people would do. She wore a very distinctive white outfit, and you could easily pick out who she was. It's really important.
Did she wear her signature backwards hat?
You know what? I'm not sure. I didn't see the hat on, but she does wear the hat a lot. She looks good in the hat. It suits her.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I like it when people have a thing because then it does, as especially as commentators, it helps you kind of point out who people are.
that's why I wear the plaid shorts. All the
Oh yeah,
massive commentating that gets done at my race just makes it easier to pick out pictures. But yeah, yeah, it is good to have a little something that sets you apart, like that
yeah,
stands you out. Like when I watch a High Rock start line or a Spartan start line, I don't know how many dudes in black shorts and tattoos are just like yeah, who you can't tell who's who. Who knows? These
yeah.
jacked up dudes in black shorts and tattoos.
Well, and especially with High Rocks because they give them the same outfits now.
And they put the names on them, which is cool. So and I was again, I've mentioned before what we thought what a great job the High Rocks broadcast was.
Hmm.
And but they put the names and all right, so let me point this out too first. And we're gonna go back and forward in here. When you're doing the High Rocks broadcast, and I know we've talked about this before, and Bracken spoke about this before, you're looking at a much smaller screen, and it's very difficult to tell who's who. And then sometimes when you're doing a smaller event, there's a lot of unknowns, right? There's a lot of people that really you don't know. When you do Worlds, you know everybody in it, right?
Hmm.
Like when I commentated Deka Worlds, I knew every person, right? I knew them to see their face and up close. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But when you do one when there's a lesser, when you maybe know two, three people in the lineups and everybody else is maybe local and less known, it's very difficult. So High Rocks on the bigger ones, they're putting names on the shirts, which is great. And it's working really well, especially for the women. But two things. One, they were only putting them on the front, put them on the back too, because we do see a lot of the back of people running. And that's when it's even harder to identify a person because you can't see their face.
Yeah.
And then the guys, well, they let the guys take their shirts off after like one zone, and then all the guys' shirts are gone, and we have no friggin' idea who's who.
Hmm.
So
So put it on the back band of their shorts or something.
that would be very cool. Yeah, everybody should have their name written across their ass. They do it in motorcycle racing. It works. They got
Or
nicknames
make
right
people
across their
like
ass.
a temporary tattoo that they can put on their back.
That'd be pretty cool. Except for the people who are covered in tattoos already.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I got a wide open spot back there, so I'm good to go. I think I'll just tattoo my name back there anyway. That way it's easy.
Yeah.
Don't need a
There.
temple.
Then when you're highly commentated about in your races, then no one will
Highly.
ever know that you didn't. Yeah. They'll always know Dave Claxton.
I think I was mentioned once. I think Jack mentioned me last year in the relay in the World Championship relay when we were got one mention on the skier, I think, or the rower or the skier. I think maybe two. There you go. I think
Hmm.
Jack was just throwing me a bone, being a nice guy. Yeah, he had nothing else to commentate at the moment. Well, there's nothing else going
You
on.
gotta
Hey, there's Dave.
fill in the airtime.
Yeah, dead air, dead air. There's Dave. Nice shorts. Um, we talked last week with Lauren. Oh, by the way, Lauren has got her email to get into the 3K for Pocono, just so you know.
Oh, good.
So we talked to Lauren last week, and I mentioned it to her, but we never got a chance to really get your opinion, I don't think, on the proposed High Rocks changes. So with the qualifying standards, you remember them?
No.
So
Refresh
the,
my memory.
the basis is it's going to be very similar to what it was this year, except you're going to have four regional races. So there'll be an American one, two European ones, and one in Hong Kong, right? Top three from each of those races can qualify, but there is no roll down. So if they're repeat
Oh.
podiums, it's just like last year, right? So theoretically, you could have the same three at every race. And then there is also going to be a last chance qualifier as well, where the top three can go from that in. So what do you think on that? Oh, and then time, the people who would qualify, let's say six spots are taken by podiums. Then the last nine spots will be done by time, but it'll be an average of two of your races, of your two best races, rather than just one.
Hmm.
And to get into the regionals, you have to be part of the top 15 for times already.
So to be in the rest of those spots, do you have to do two races?
To qualify for worlds, yes, but to qualify for the regionals, I believe it's just one race.
Okay. Huh. Well, I do like the qualifiers from regional races because again with the variants and different races I do like that you can qualify that way. Um yeah, and I think the average thing does it makes sense again because if we have some outliers with courses that are super fast, it doesn't put so much weight on a course that might have had
Hmm.
some sleds that just happen to move really fast. So that saves that a little bit. So I think it's moving in the right direction, it sounds like.
I think it's moving, but I think that could have been all the way there.
Well, they're maybe trying not to make too big of a change in one time.
Oh God, but big change when it's right is awesome. Like my thing, and I said this last year, and it was kind of said almost as this won't happen. But I had said you could have the US championship with nothing but Europeans because a lot
Mhm.
of the European courses are faster. So
Yeah.
so you could have it with nothing but Europeans, and then you could have the same three people win all the podiums and therefore get all the entries, which for the women did happen, and it was like, so now I'm looking at it again, and I'm realistically, it can happen again the same way. And it's still dependent on the courses. And so well, I mean, I said this with Lauren, just put in a roll down and make it so that you don't need to be a top 15 prior to the regionals to go in the regionals. Make the regionals a true open to anybody. And the only thing the top 15 gets you part of the live stream. So you get a little more publicity because I think just then it's so much more fair. And then it's awesome. Then you're going to have 5 races with 3 podium winner, three auto quals from each race.
Mhm.
Clean, simple, no complaints about sleds, no complaints about courses, no complaints about number of laps. None of that matters
So
because
then
you're
what about like
race.
near the end after you've had how many races is there to qualify from?
There's 5.
So let's say you've done four and then the roll downs are happening. So you could potentially have 12 people. And then after that, the next ones would qualify.
Yeah, so let's just theoretically say from the way I propose it. Let's say your first race is North American and your podium people are the same as this year. Meg, Lauren, Michaela, they win the podium, right? So they're auto qualified.
Yeah.
They win the money, they're auto qualified. Then the next one is in Spain. And those 3 girls decide to go again because, well, there's money to be made.
Yeah.
And they podium again, 1, 2, 3. So they get the money, but
Yeah.
then the next spots go to Tara, Vivian, Viola,
Right.
the next 3 girls in line. And then they're auto qualified, right? And then you go like that. And the last chance qualifier is, same deal. Be the last people that have not, are the highest placing people that have not qualified yet. And you
So,
literally
but
get
what
to
I'm
go
saying,
to
if
3.
everybody is kind of going to the same races, then in the end, could we have 13th, 14th, 15th getting their spot
What
if
do you
it's
mean?
the roll down process? So, like you said, so race one, you had um
Yes.
you had Meg, and then the next one you had those three, and then so if it keeps rolling down,
Yep.
could we be getting people that are placing 13th in a race getting a qualifying spot?
You theoretically could. Yeah. Yeah. But that's if you have the same people go to every single race. And if
Right.
you have the same people go to every single race, that's probably the 13th best person.
Right.
And
Yeah.
at least they raced their way in.
Right.
I
Hmm.
just think I just can't get past that the courses are not the same. They will never be the same. So
Right.
time-based qualification just doesn't work
Yeah.
in my mind. So yeah, that's my simple fix. And I've of course made that known to High Rocks and they will probably ignore it and move on. And that's their right.
Yeah.
They
Well,
took
we'll
one of my
see how this one
suggestions.
plays out then.
Yeah, yeah, they took one of my suggestions and went with it. I was honored that they did it.
Hmm.
We'll see if they do. I'm sure they've got lots of input from many different sources.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was good. I just think they need to commit to it and
Hmm.
just go with it because it's it just for me it just casts that dark cloud, and I just don't like it. And it's and you know what? I'm not going to pick on High Rocks because we had a discussion this week about a dark cloud with Deka that we don't like. I mean,
Mhm.
you might as well lay that out too.
My dark cloud with higher Deca.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the qualification process for the Deca Fit, which is a bit different than the Strong and the Mile, because the Strong and the Mile, these events are all happening at gyms and individual centers. So it's just the top 20 times are the elites, and then the other ones can race age group. So with a Fit, because these events are happening at bigger centers, convention centers, sometimes road shows, and with those, with the Deca Fit, you either choose to enter and race as an elite, or you enter and race as an age group. So if you race elite, you have the potential to qualify to race the top 20 elite race at the World Championships. Or if you race age group, you have the potential to race age group at world championships. The problem is if you choose, and this is what happened to me last year. So I raced elite at the one Deca Fit that I did all year. Um, I raced elite in the Deca Fit. My time did not qualify me for the top 12, but then it didn't, then it meant that I couldn't go and race age group at the world championships, even though my time would have qualified me to race age group and potentially podium at the age group race at the championship. So the problem is then is the people who are kind of these people, like, I don't know if you want to call them the bubble people, but where, we could potentially qualify to race. And now this year it's top 20. So the top 20 elites at the world championships. So then do we choose to race elite or do and take the risk, or do we race age group and essentially secure our spot in age group? So, and this is kind of where I'm at too. So last year I watched the age group races, which I wish I had been in. And
And you didn't say anything about it at all.
I mean, I love to race. So if there was I was there anyways. Like I went to Atlantic City. So to throw in another race would have been awesome. Um, yeah, so then essentially through and talking with Yancy as well, the idea is that um, you don't they don't want someone who is an elite racer racing through the season in elite races, and then when they don't qualify, they bump down to age group. Age groupers, as he says, don't want that. However, I guess my frustration is that I don't understand why there's such a distinction between an age group racer and an elite racer, because a lot of us could technically go both ways. So it's not like we're two completely different people, right? So, and this is ultimately what I see as one of the biggest flaws in the Spartan system and now DECA system as it's falling under Spartan, that you choose elite or age group racing. And I think what it does, though, in the end, is that it penalizes people who choose to race elite because you're essentially taking this risk. And there's no benefit to racing elite as far as, like, you don't racing elite is essentially a risk in that, if let's say I'm 21st ranked in the world and then I never raced an age group race, I'm SOL when it comes to world championships, even though I could have the 21st fastest time in a DECA Fit in that year, but I don't have a place to race in, essentially because age group athletes don't want me racing age group races. So DECA's solution to this is you have to then you have to race both.
Yeah.
So I have to race a race as an elite and I have to race as an age group. But because it's not easy for me to get to DECA Fit, so there's not that many in our area, I would have to do it essentially on the same day, which is fine. Like I can do that. But it's also the thought of it is so funny to me because I'm doing the exact same race, hours apart, exact same race. I'm just registering under two different categories. And it's just to kind of fulfill a box to say, I've raced as an elite, I've raced as an age group, I'm running the exact same race. But, and so that so my age group time could stand if my elite time doesn't get me into the top 20. So I just think for it, I don't understand why we can't just take the DECA times like we do the mile and the strong, and the top 20 times are our top 20 elites, and then everybody else just races age group. And then people that have been racing DECA and supporting the organization throughout the year aren't kind of left where it's like they don't have a place. So if I didn't come top 20 for the elites, okay, so I'm not an elite, but I'm not able to race age group. So it's like you're kind of left in this, well, then what am I? If I'm what age groupers would say, too good to race age group, but I'm not good enough to race elite, then where do I belong essentially? So it's one of these things. And I mean, it's not like there's gonna be so many of us where it's kind of left in this like no man's land of where do I belong. But it's just again, it's one of the flaws in the system that I don't really understand. Um, but yeah, so essentially anyone who's in the position where it's not like your top 20 time is secure, you would have to essentially race in both categories if your goal is to race at the world championship.
And I'm with you completely. And I mean, I discussed it with Yancy too, and they're very strong in their opinion on it, and that's cool. It's great. It's their show. And I do understand their position, but in my mind, where it gets me is, and you said it, if you can do the strong and the mile this way, then the fit's the same. It should just be the same. It's simple. If it works
Yeah.
for those two, it'll work for the other one.
Hmm.
It doesn't seem that complicated to me. But for now, it'll be that. And maybe if more of you complain, well, that is how changes get made, right? Is when your clientele says, we don't like this, we prefer this.
Right.
So
Well, and one of the beauties of this event is, and I know you talked about times and courses and stuff with High Rocks, but I mean, DECA is even more uh like it's always the same setup with the deck fit.
yeah.
So there's not really that room for, and I know there's turf and there's polished concrete and stuff like that, which really, I don't know, really only affects the running to an extent, maybe this and the sled a little bit, but it's so, I mean, it's times. So it's not like your rate, it's not like Spartan where you can't compare courses and
No.
times and stuff like that. So I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about this event is we can take the times. So take the top 20. And so again, another one of their arguments is why like should you so someone that qualifies in the top 20, let's say, so you've raced and you have one of the top 20 times in the world, but let's say you're 49 years old and and you don't have a chance at a podium in the elite race, but you would win your age group. So would that person not more likely want to race their age group and what is stopping them from bumping down? And then the age group athletes in their age group would be upset because that person technically should have raced the lead. So then, in my opinion, to solve that, the top 20 get something for being top 20. And if you spread prize money out and give them something for being top 20, or, so that there's a reason that they come out ahead that gives them incentive to stay in that top 20 instead of going for an age group podium, then it might just solve that.
And it doesn't have to be a huge thing, right? I mean, I've made this argument before with the Spartan races, right? You give them some kind of different bling, right? It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be massive. Something else to kind of back up your point here. So in my division, the guy leading my division right now in the strong is a guy named Ivan Milan. And I believe he actually watches. I think we met him last year in Atlantic City. Just a monster on the machines, absolute
Mm-hmm.
beast. So he's got a 12:31, right? And he's in the 45 to 49 category. Now he's not going to win. He if he goes to elite, he's not going to win, but he could very well end up in the top 20,
Mm-hmm.
right? With that kind of time. Now here's the thing. Even though he qualifies for the top 20, as a guy in his age group, I'm not upset if he says no, I'm racing age group, right?
Right.
That doesn't bother me. And I know because right now he's at the top of my list. He's there. He's been there all year. He's going to be there the whole time. So my anticipation is he's going to be there. He's going to be racing in my category. right?
Mhm.
Other than let's see if he's there right now. Yep. So he is actually sitting 20th right now
Okay, there
overall.
you go.
All right. So point being, and I'm sure there's guys in other age groups. So, but I anticipate him not to be in that thing. I anticipate him to be in my group. And
Mhm.
that's why I think if it's fine here, why isn't it fine if it's fine for the strong, why isn't it fine for the fit? So it is what it is. And the one thing I will say is, despite the fact that Deka seems stalwart in there, this is the way we want it. I will say Yancey was very open to talking about it and was, and he always, and I mean, I'm annoying. I put forth a lot of suggestions, and he listens to all of them. And that's not just because of me. He listens to everybody's suggestions and takes it in. So I do appreciate that. Yeah, just not always going to go the way we want, but maybe the
Yeah,
more
it's the same
people.
thing. Like Yancy and I talk at length about it as well, and like we don't see things the same way in this one thing. But I mean, it doesn't. Yancy's a fantastic person, and he entertained
Yeah,
um all of my thoughts on it too, and very respectful. And at the end of the day, we love Yancy and Deka and everything. It's just there's things with running a business because that's what this is too, where decisions are made, and not everyone is going to agree with how decisions are made. So, and it is what it is. And I'm going to race two Dekas in one day under two different categories. So whatever.
you're a beast. Come on, it's not a problem. Awesome. All right. Well, I was actually thinking today, I was maybe going to get to because we were talking about a lot of the different hybrid stuff, just designing what we thought. Because I mean, Race Brain did this a while ago, and I had problems with their race. I wanted to eventually do one where you and I put together how we think a hybrid race should be done, and how what's the kind of our perfect race or how we'd set it up. We'll do that for another day because we don't really have time today. We've
And
gone.
you have to give me time to plan this.
Nope, better shift right on the fly. Nope. I like to put you on the spot. I don't like you
I
think.
know you do.
Like to keep you as uninformed as possible. Well, because then you'll look too smart. I'll look stupid. It just doesn't benefit me at all. Anyway, so why don't you wind us out today?
Yeah, thanks so much for listening. And again, with all these decas coming up and a lot of these smaller events, go out and support as many decas as you can. It's a growing company, and a lot of this is run by your local small businesses. So go out, support, and volunteer, and just help this sport grow. So it is really reaching the grassroots. And if you have kids again in that age group, get them out and supporting. So it's a great company. It's a great event. So, and thanks so much again for listening as always. And thanks for your support.
I did have one more thing that I forgot about. I wanted to say good luck to all the Canadians heading down to New York for High Rocks this coming weekend, especially our friends John and Sue doing their couples doubles together. Best of luck to everybody, and watch for Sue to be dancing across the finish line because she's got some moves. Um, but yeah, lots of Canadians heading down. So guys, best of luck. I almost jumped in. Like I almost we okay, little quick story because we were supposed to be done and we'll be done for real. We were on our way to Deka this weekend, and I said to Raya, I said, "Hey, want to go to New York next weekend?" Because we actually have a code. We have a code, right? So, um, he's like, "Maybe, yeah, yeah." So we started to think about it, and we're on the edge. And then, unfortunately, she's kind of hurt her foot, and that has put it out. But we were about to cave and head down for the weekend, but I guess next time. So good luck to everybody in New York. And let's get some good Canadian content. Maybe we get our first Canadians on a podium, on the elite podium. All right. Take care, guys.